Hey everyone, James Niggemeyer here. Thank you for tuning back into my YouTube channel. A viewer left a request in the comment section about mapping. How you use mapping, how I use mapping, whether it's with electronics, paper maps, or apps on your phone. And I kind of want to touch on some different things that worked for me when it pertains to all three of those different types of things that we have at our disposal today. But before I get into that, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And also, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and drop a comment down there. I'd love to hear from you guys. So when I started bass fishing, all you really had was paper maps. And the paper maps are still something that I really find useful. A lot of guys are like, wow, I don't even buy a paper map anymore because everything that I need is on my electronics, and if I don't have it there, I can get it on my, my tablet or on my phone or different things like that. So I understand that, but I'm going to go into some of the reasons why I like a map, why I still use a map, a paper map that is, and obviously some of the things that I like about the electronics, some ways that I use each one. So let's start out with the paper map. I'm going to use this Lake Fork map because I'm kind of a Lake Fork local. Do some guiding up there between tournaments throughout the year. And it's basically 30 minutes up the road. So getting into the paper map, there's some definite benefits to having a paper map. And I'm going to go into some of the things that I find most beneficial. If I have never been on a body of water, I like the paper map, number one, because of the navigational purposes. Not only on the water, but going around the lake. Like if you look at this right here, you want to know what roads intersect with what, and then what farm to market roads or county roads will lead me to one of these boat ramps off the beaten path. If it's windy one day and I don't want to run clear across the lake, I want to try to find a boat ramp that's more secluded. One of the boat ramps that I've used over the years is out of Mustang Resort, because if it's blowing north-south, really hard, then I can go kind of in the east and west arm of Mustang and Little Mustang and Williams, and those areas. They're great places to fish, and you don't want to run way out in the main lake and come in here. If you can put in there, well, that's what makes all these maps so useful. And then if you're doing map study at home, or you're doing study on the internet, and you're looking for information about types of places that have been good recently, if you're not familiar with the area and you're coming out to the lake or hadn't been in a long time, you're looking at some fishing reports and they start to name off some different names. That's another thing that's really good, because they have everything named, like Little Caney, Glade, and then up and through here you've got White Oak, and up above into Birch and different things like that. So everything's named. So you've got your boat ramps and how to get around, navigating wise. And then obviously you've got the towns. Some of these maps have places to eat, and then tackle stores, different things like that. Another thing that's really important, the boat lanes. Trying to run around a lake that you're not familiar with, kind of figuring out where the boat lanes are. One of the things I think is really important, not so much for the rest of the country, but a lot of lakes in East Texas, we have a lot of timber. Some of these lakes, they haven't cut any timber. Some they've cut paths. Lake Fork, my understanding is they cut very little timber before they flooded it. And so understanding where the timber is underwater, kind of looking at, you can see that there's actually like some timbered areas, and then you notice that down here there's less timber, kind of getting an idea where that timber runs and how thick it is and how hard it is going to be to navigate, whether you're running and or idling through areas, is real important. So that's important. Another thing that I like about these maps, knowing where these feeder creeks are, knowing where, like at the back of Dale, I see there's a feeder creek that comes in here. Well, I know if it's raining a lot, there's going to be some stain in there. If it's cold water, probably don't want that stain, but if it's warm water and they're running in the back in the summer, late summer and fall, that could be a good thing. But also, if I'm looking for clear water, I'm going to look for some of these other ones that don't have a creek running in the back. And so these paper maps are excellent for that sort of thing. Getting into the apps, I use the Navionics app, and one of the things that I like to do if I'm sitting there in the camper at night, or usually it's at home because I'm talking about Lake Fork, I can kind of like look around on this. I can kind of scroll around and look at different areas and kind of get an idea more specifically when I'm fishing a lake that I'm not that familiar with, trying to commit a lot of the lake to memory, understanding where things are and looking at potential areas that should fit into your seasonal pattern. So these apps are great. And of course, the Lowrance Electronics takes Navionics, so I can have that on my app on my phone and then also in my unit. So let's get into the Lowrance mapping and go over some of the things that are really useful there. So here we are in front of my Lowrance. Yesterday I was out there breaking in the boat, and this is my trail that was on there, this black line. So don't pay any attention to that, but that is the boat lane. That's kind of how it runs. And this is the mapping that is downloaded into the Lowrance unit. This is an HDS 16 live unit. And one of the things that's great about it is it's a really well-made map. It's got a lot of detail. It's got a lot of contour lines. Lets you know, like for instance, this little area right here has got a lot of great depth to it, like a great depth change. It's shallower in here, and then it falls off pretty quick. And then you also see where you can tell right quick where this is kind of a flat, and then it drops off. And one of the things that's great about the mapping is I love the fact that if I'm on a pattern and I'm on the water, and let's say I'm catching them on secondary points like this one here, and I notice that this kind of a rounded point, and it's a secondary point leading into potential spawning areas, then I can kind of like look around. If I've caught some fish there and said, man, I wonder where there's some more of that, I can look around and look for that same type of scenario. Boom. And there's just maybe a couple miles down, there's another secondary point leading into a spawning area. So that's one of the ways that I really like to try to pattern fish, try to find areas where that are similar to areas where I'm having success. Another way to think about it is, let's say I get on a pattern where I'm finding some fish in the backs of pockets where there's a creek that runs in there. Then I can quickly say, well, boom, there's another one. And both on the same side, and then boom, there's another one. I can kind of, even not knowing, really being familiar with the lake, if you're there for the first time, you could kind of get at a glance, you can look at stuff really quick. One of the things I like about this is that it can be so focused. I can get in there and really look at the nuances, how the bank lays, the topographical features of the mapping that this one comes with is just really important. I'm looking here, there's a pond dam here. Now I know that's there, but it actually shows it. There's kind of a pond dam here from before the lake was flooded. So you can see structures like a pond dam, and that's actually beneficial. So let's say I'm getting bit on pond dams, and I can just kind of look around, scroll around. Man, are there any more pond dams? Boom. This looks like a little, and there it is. This is another pond back in here, and there's a pond dam that comes across there. Little shallow water before you get into deeper water. So you kind of get the idea, but I'm also looking at, okay, there's some places where there's another boat ramp, and I can look at these things while I'm on the water. One of the things I love about the paper map is I can look at the entire lake at a glance. It's a little more difficult to look at this lake at a glance on an electronics unit, because if you zoom out too much, you lose a lot of the detail. But for looking at specific things, this is ideal. And obviously for on the water, you're going to be able to see where your boat's positioned in relation to structure and different things like that. So those are just a few of the ways that I like to use my electronics, the mapping features on my Lowrance units, but then also using a paper map and even my phone or tablet to kind of try to identify fish holding areas and even get a better understanding and commit more to memory what the lake is like and how it lays out. Those are just some of the ways that I use these tools. They're all just tools at our disposal, help us be more efficient on the water and catch more fish when we are out there. So this video may have raised some questions about my electronics or the mapping or the tablets or phones and how I use them. So go ahead and drop a comment in the comment section, and I'll try to get back to each one of those. This is just kind of a quick overview of the things that I like to do with them while we're sitting here in the garage and I'm trying to get this boat loaded up for tournament season. Definitely each one of these is real important to me. I think guys that say, all I need is my mapping on my electronics, I think you're missing something. I think there's something that each one of these brings to the table. You can see road beds on the paper map, and of course then you also have the timbered areas where you know you probably shouldn't get up and run. I hope you like this video. If you do, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, like I said earlier, please subscribe to the channel. Going to continue to try to post twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week if time permits, but it's usually Mondays and Wednesdays and typically in the evening. I'm open to hearing suggestions on topics you guys might want to hear me talk about. I appreciate you guys watching this video, and until next time, thanks for watching and good fishing.